Professor Matthew Smith teaches national security at the University of New Haven. He joins me now from Connecticut. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, John.
Okay, so Prigozhin mercenary fighters came within, 200 miles of Moscow, then suddenly retreated. Here's the former director of the CIA, General David Petraeus, on what he believes may have happened.
Clearly, Prigozhin lost his nerve. He was, as you noted earlier, within roughly 2 hours' drive of the outskirts of Moscow, where they were starting to prepare defensive positions. This rebellion, although it had some applause along the way, didn't appear to be generating the kind of support that he had hoped it would.
So in other words, if you're going to take Vienna. But is that how you see it? Is that the most likely explanation here, cold feet?
You know, I used to work for the general at Fort Leavenworth, and I respect him absolutely, but he may not be right. He could be right, but there are other explanations as for why Prigozhin may have stopped. Right? We don't exactly know what happened in this deal. We don't know when the phone calls were made. They may have made the phone call, and that's why he stopped. I just think it's really early to draw conclusions on this yet, and I would be wary of anyone who couches this as though they know something, even General Petraeus.
Well, there is a perception out there, a common belief, if you like, in these early days that Vladimir Putin has been left, seriously weakened by all of this.
Again, I have to posit the opposite possibility, right? In the end, what do we know happened here? He stopped it in 24 hours, right? This guy, Prigozhin, his nominal enemy, is now safely ensconced in a neighboring state in Belarus, under surveillance, right? Probably in fear for his life at any moment. And the 25,000 plus mercenaries that were behind Prigozhin are now going to be folded into Putin's direct command, right? And some of these are the best fighters in Ukraine, which he now gets to direct. The only thing we don't know is, did Prigozhin get some sign off on getting rid of the defense minister and Gerasimov, General Gerasimov? Right, so this looks very much to me like a Putin win, and the most important thing here is the elites, right? The oligarchs that everybody keeps waiting to turn on Putin. Well, this was their shot, and they didn't take it, John. So yeah. I think that hope that Putin is going to be ousted is really gone now, because there's no other insurrection coming anytime soon.
You're saying there's no other Prigozhin in the wings?
There's no other Prigozhin in the wings, right? And look, coup d'etats aren't military-only events. They're political events with military components. And Prigozhin provided the military component of this, but he couldn't come through with the political side. He didn't have political support. And the fact that nobody gave him that support in Moscow is indicative that Putin still has control of the security services, and he has the control and loyalty of at least enough of the elites.
Okay, I want you to listen to the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, on how he sees the bigger picture here for Vladimir Putin and for Russia. Listen to this.
16 months ago, Russian forces were on the doorstep of Kyiv, Ukraine, thinking they were going to take the city in a matter of days, erase the country from the map. Now, they had to be focused on defending Moscow, Russia's capital, against mercenaries of Putin's own making. So this raises lots of profound questions that will be answered, I think, in the days and weeks ahead.
So this, coup d'etat may have been a win for Putin in some ways, but overall, would you say, this war of choice in Ukraine has been, the biggest disaster of his presidency and just keeps getting worse? And U.S. intelligence believes this year Putin will have few, if any, military victories in Ukraine. So how does this now play into presidential elections, which are scheduled for next March?
You mean in Russia?
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, in Russia.
Yeah. So I don't think it plays much at all. Putin has set up a system that leans heavily towards his advantage, and that system will stay in place. And look, in the West, when we talk about this, we are constantly talking about it as though it's the mirror image of our electorate, as though the Russian public and what they think matters in the election of their president the way what the American public thinks matters in our elections. And it's simply not that way, right? And second, again, with this coup d'etat attempt, if that's what it was, right, there's no indication that the Russian population was cheering Prigozhin on, right? So I think we need to step back and assess, the facts on the ground that we can see here. This war in Ukraine is the worst war that Russia has waged, since 1917, right? It's been a disaster for them, and it will continue to be a disaster. I'm sure of that on the battlefield. But that doesn't mean Putin's weak.
Has Ukraine been able to take advantage of this, or will they be able to take advantage of this? How do you see it?
I'm going to have to go into an American football metaphor here, unfortunately. It's like if your enemy team fumbles the football. They could fumble it and recover it at the same spot they fumbled, meaning nothing really changes. They could fumble it, your team could recover it and fall in the same spot, meaning you're not really in that much of a different position, right? You could recover it, run it back for a touchdown, or you could recover it and then fail to convert to points on a drive, right? Ukraine has an opportunity here, but it was over very fast, right? And we haven't seen that they've been able to convert on that opportunity. So I don't think it's actually changed the battlefield yet. It may, but at this point, I don't see any change right now.
Okay, Matthew Schmidt, great to have you on. Good to hear a different point of view, as always. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.